what I'm finding is that women, I think, are wanting relatively smaller breasts than they did a few years ago, in my practice.
That's like coming in, getting a cup of coffee. You like hand somebody a cup of coffee, and then they decide whether they're going to pay for it afterwards. And you're like, well, I guess I just don't get paid for this one.
Dude, my hair's jacked. I've been in the OR all day.
Yeah.
I look like a hot mess.
Having the hat.
Got them right on.
Look at Fred, all zipped up. Look at you following instructions. That's impressive.
Oh, yeah, man.
Did you operate all day in the like full getup?
Oh, yeah, dude. It's brutal.
Yeah, that is pretty brutal. Very impressive. I
Trying.
literally only made it like a couple of days before I was on like just like very easy garments because I couldn't tolerate having.
Really?
Yeah, just wasn't for me.
This says I'm on 4K, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's reading fine this go round. I don't know what happened with last time. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
We're not pros at this. We're figuring out as we go along, right? It's just we're just getting started.
How you been, dude?
Good. I was wildly sick this past weekend, so I was actually super glad that I wasn't at ASPS. So that was awesome. Yeah, my daughter going to school and then brought everything home. We had like a head cold at the same time, and then we had hand, foot, and mouth, and I've still got a couple of red spots on my palm, which showed up this weekend, and then thankfully have sealed up before I had to get back to work. But I was like, I didn't know that full-blown adults are getting hand, foot, and mouth. I didn't know that. It's my first one at it.
I had it one time. I think I was in college. I was like 20 something. My sister-in-law bought like this massive pixie stick, and she had been like at a pool park with some people, and so I think she got it there. And I didn't know she had the sores in the back of her throat, her hands. And then I ate some of the pixie stick because I had no idea. I was like, oh, that looks good. It was like because it was huge. I was like,
so it's the different ones, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I got the worst sores in the back of my throat. Oh man, my hands. It was wild.
Yeah, this one, it's like I literally had like 4 little spots on my right hand and then otherwise okay. But yeah, I wasn't prepared for that. So I would have loved to be at ASPS, be in San Diego, just be like sick as a dog. But it was a smart play with my wife being pregnant and our toddler being in school. That was just like, it was not the time to be going to a meeting.
It was a good meeting. But yeah, it's just another meeting. Like there'll be another one, I'm sure.
I mean, they do have them every year. It'll still be there in a couple of years.
You're not missing out on much.
Yeah. Well, I was looking forward to seeing you in action, giving a couple of talks there. It's awesome.
Yeah, a few of them I had to give. I had 3 talks on Wednesday. I don't know why they put Hot Topics on Wednesday, and they're going to move it back to Thursday next year because nobody attended. Yeah. I couldn't get out there. So I gave 3 talks virtually, and then I had one talk that I didn't have to give. One of the med students gave from Harvard, and then the last one was my Galaflex talk on Saturday. That one was a good one. But I only had 5 minutes because it was like one of those abstract talks, and I had like 15 minutes worth of data to present. So I literally like just flew through my talk.
Oh man, it just kills it when you're just like, next, go.
Yeah, and they're like, your time's up. I was like, I know. I kept going.
You're clicking through like you're going through your like yearly educational stuff for the hospital, just like
yeah. And I knew it was a 5-minute talk, so I didn't make it long, but it was just so much data that I had collected for the last 4 or 5 years that I want to present. And then like half the room, as soon as I was done, got up and left because I had to go to the airport. So like half the room left. There was like maybe 50 something people in that room. They all left.
I thought you meant everybody was following you to learn more about your Galaflex data.
No, people did ask me, but
they're all chasing you down.
Yeah. No, we got.
I need to know more about this.
Yeah, they're like, we're out.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. There's been since we last recorded, it almost seems like you've done so much that I don't know how you slept during that time. I think y'all went on a trip to you guys went to Japan, right? You went to ASPS and had like 1 million talks. You had your grand opening. That was what?
Yeah, like 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago,
almost 3 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. And then when we opened our surgery center that same week, that was a crazy week, dude.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. It was crazy.
We had like almost 3,000 people at our grand opening. It was wild, dude. But it was so fun. They did such a good job organizing it. It was so fun. But yeah, I kind of like, my wife and I were kind of like side, Mindy and I were like, like huge relief, like obviously like still busy, but it's nice to be done with all that. And like the building is, I mean, it took us 3 years to get to where it's at. So it's nice to not have to have like to make thousands of decisions every week, on different things in the building. It's nice to like be like, oh, let's like watch a show on Netflix. Let's catch up. We're like 3 seasons behind on Emily in Paris because there's only 3 seasons.
Like, I haven't watched a lick of it.
Yeah. What have you been up to, man? Besides getting sick?
Yeah. Well, one thing I do want to say for the the listeners out there, I think that looking at your social media and you're seeing, it's like we see people, we see the beautiful space, and we don't see all the stuff like behind the scenes. And it's got to be worse than building a house, right? It's like a house is so much smaller unless you have like the world's largest house. But it was a 75,000 square foot building.
Yeah.
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 And then you guys.
So we were in charge of like 40,000 of it. It was 20,000, 20,000, then 20,000, then 15,000. So the top 2 floors, luckily I didn't have to design because that's like our partners. They do different business, but it's a lot, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge space. And I think that when people see this online, they're like, okay, it seems nice, but the scale of it is wild. So I think just to like put it in perspective, the clinic that we are in, where we have 2 surgeons and we have 2 PAs, it is 3,000 square feet, the entire thing, like wall to wall. That is it. So the idea of that being in like 20,000, 40,000 square feet is just like astronomical. It's very impressive. And I think that people just need to like keep that in perspective. It's just like palatially huge. Is a phenomenal achievement. You should be super, super proud. It's awesome.
Thank you. It's so funny how it started because initially we were just I always wanted to build a building because I felt like, like my career, if I had another 25, 30 years, like I wanted to own the real estate that I occupied. I wanted to pay myself instead of pay somebody else rent for my career. So that was my goal early on. But we thought about building our own just standalone building and obviously like on a much smaller scale. But this opportunity came up with the land that it's on. And I'm like, I have to be a part of this. Like when you go there, you just see like where it's positioned in the Salt Lake Valley. It is just phenomenal at the views. And I'm like, I have to be here. So initially we were going to just do like 20,000 square feet on the main floor, do half of it surgery center, the other half the spa and the clinic. But if you look and you try to build something out, I'm like, I can't do it. Like I could do one small OR, because you have to make like waiting areas, recovery areas, we're trying to organize it all. And for what we wanted to do, we're like, this is just not enough. I'm like, well, what if we went downstairs, and no one was down there yet. So we took half that floor at first and we're planning it out and we're like, well, we could do half. I'm like, well, what if we just did the whole floor? And Mindy's like, you're freaking crazy. I'm like, well, let's just build a surgery center. Let's build a ASC, not just plastic surgeons, but let's get everybody come in here. Let's make it like a super high-end surgery center. So that's where that kind of started, And at the time, I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to pay for this. Like, because it was me and Dr. Garlic had just joined, just us two. And, but I think it's interesting because you look, when you set a goal and you take a risk on yourself, and I know you do the same thing. I mean, I know you've kind of transitioned in your practice. We can talk about that. But I think when you take that risk on yourself, like that's probably the best bet you can make, is investing in yourself. And so we took that risk and we set goals and we added a third, now a fourth surgeon, hopefully a fifth surgeon next year, and so that growth pattern like mirrors what we wanted to do in the beginning.
So with it being a full-blown ASC, what kind of groups are you bringing in? Is it going to be all plastics, or are you bringing in other ancillary groups, other services for this?
Yeah, actually other groups. So we won't have any other plastics groups in there. It'll be the plastics clinic surgeons to do plastic surgery. Those are going to be probably mostly the 2 ORs, 4 and 5. And then ORs 1, 2, and 3, we're looking at bringing in orthopedics, so like spine, joints, and then spine, and then ENT, possibly general surgery. That's what we're looking at right now. We've talked to several groups. So I think once we get our insurance stuff, it's just like all this stuff. It's kind of like when you get privileges at a hospital and you graduate residency, you obviously have your medical license, but you get your degree or you graduate, right? And then you get your hospital privileges, you're board eligible. Like you go through all these hoops, and it's the same thing building ASC, trying to get it accredited get insurance to like be approved so you can bill. Like it's just so many weird hoops you have to jump through. It's so painful.
There's forever hoops, and everybody always wants a few bucks for each hoop. Like, really?
So many bucks.
Yeah, so it sounds like some of the usual players. It sounds like, with ASCs everywhere I go, it's always dragging in like ENT, neurosurgery, ortho, especially the neuro and ortho people, because it seems like for facility fees, they make by far the most. But I mean, for most of the ASC groups, when we look at ASCs in this area, when they're getting built out, you've got like 20 doctors who are all kicking in to like make it happen. And you did it with just a couple of people, and then, bring people in as you need them after that. It's wild. It's like not how it's usually done.
Definitely different. Yeah. A lot of people ask me like, who are your investors? I was like, me. They're like, wait, what? Yeah. I mean, you're like, there's no way. I'm like, well, obviously I went through the bank, and I didn't want to have anyone have any say in it besides us, because I wanted that autonomy. And so, yeah, in the first few years of my practice, just saved everything, we obviously lived fine, but like I again invested everything back into it because I had this dream, and I thought if I could, my goal was when I first my practice, first 5 years, just heavily invest in my practice, into myself, and build that up. And then I think after that, you can kind of benefit from that. I think us as, residents coming out or fellows, like the tendency is like, man, I have all this debt from med school, undergrad, some people, right? And the residency, you don't make hardly anything. So you're not really paying anything off. So then by the time you get a job, you're like, oh my gosh, like I want to go buy a car for once, or I don't want to drive my 19, whatever, a Honda or something. You want to get a new car. So people tend to spend that money right away, right? And so that's always tempting, but I feel like just invest it back and make it even worth it. 10x.
I also think it's different in plastic surgery because we have it's very different compared to like internal medicine, or if you're working as like an allergist or something. It's like they're not going to open like their own like massive, like amazing clinic because there's not enough money coming through to like make that happen. And for us, in some ways the sky's the limit if you're able to make it happen. But you talk about putting investment in yourself, it's like, that's not going to probably work out for everybody, right? It's like you think it's a good investment, but it's only a good investment when you're like a good doctor and you have a lot of people who are coming in. It's like there's something else that goes into that. There's got to be juice added to that system. Yeah,
there has to be like a positive feedback mechanism, but it's also like not a mechanism where it's like you're lying to yourself. It can't be in this like echo chamber, right? Like you have to have something to look back and say, okay, yeah, this makes sense financially, or this risk, it's a calculated risk for sure. It wasn't like a willy-nilly risk. But, after like leaving my first job, the stuff I went through with that, navigating that was really scary for me because I'm not a business person. I had no idea what I was doing. And then to go through COVID like 2 months later, like I'm like, if we could survive
terrifying.
That, yeah, like I mean, we all went through this, right? But we can survive that. We can get through anything, And so I think that is what some of the positive feedback was. Is like you realize like what you're capable of as a human being.
But you see people. It's like there was a group in Southern California that they went in together on a surgery center, and it went belly up. And there were people late in their careers who lost their retirement and had to start fresh. And in all honesty, when talking with the guys in Southern California, they're like, if you're going to take a big risk, do it early. So if it goes super hard south, you got plenty of time to back it up and save for retirement so you don't have to work, 20 years longer than you ever intended. But, now's the time. You did it. You're there. Now it's time to just make it work.
It's cool to walk into something, though, where you're just like, man, like, yeah, I mean, my whole career everything hinges on it, right? It's like, yeah, if I got injured or something happened, I mean, I had to get insurance on these things to cover in case I got hurt or something. But
I mean, how many disability plans do you have?
I have multiple because it has to cover everything in that building. And they don't even make plans big enough to cover it. So they're like, well, we need multiple.
Yeah.
So that was
fun. Like, even I have 3, so I can't imagine.
Oh, it's like, it was so many. But I'm like, can we do this? Is this legal? No.
It's like somebody's going to take a picture of you skiing at some point. And like, you use dangerous sports.
Well, it's funny. Okay, so at our grand opening, they had a forklift. And like, hey, can you get up on this it's like the second story. It's like this ledge above our entrance.
Oh, yeah. I saw the video.
Yeah, we're going to forklift you up there and then jump across. So I did that. And then I'm up there. I had a drone shot. It was super cool. I look down, and my disability life insurance guy is standing right there, Jason. And he's just looking at me like, oh, my gosh. I was like, oh, no. I'm about to get canceled.
Cancel plan.
I came down. I'm like, no,
he's like
totally
taking pictures.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. And I'm totally
He's like,
good.
do you have a harness on under there?
Are you strapped in? No, he's awesome. Good people. And that's the thing is like, there's just a lot of really awesome people that are actually in this world. I think a lot of times you see a lot of the negativity, and negativity is really loud, but there's a lot of really good positivity in the world. There's a lot of really good people that want to help you. And a lot of times, you think, well, maybe they're helping me for their own gain. And, on some level, I think that's fine. Like everybody, like we can benefit from each other. I'm fine with that. But I think for a lot of people, they just want to help and be nice. And I think we lose perspective on that sometimes, because we hear all that negativity a lot.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, man. It's awesome. I was so excited to see the photos and the videos. I'm excited to drop by once my son is born. We're having a son, which we found out this past week. So
do you guys have a name?
One of each. No, we're currently working on that. Catherine was really solid on girl names, and we haven't settled on boy names yet. So we've got until April to figure that out. So we got some time.
Congrats.
Yeah,
April will be here fast.
It's going to happen quick. We got a whole other baby room to get ready, and got to decorate and get new toddler beds and all that jazz. So
you're man-to-man defense now. It's you have one more. It's gonna be zone defense, bro. You're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, this the people who built this house had 3 children, so each it's set up for like 3 kids. So it would be efficient, but we don't know. We're not sure. Catherine was excited about having a second girl, so we'll see after this one if she's excited to go another round for the possibility of a girl. And I'm like, if you do that, we're gonna have another boy. Is what's gonna happen.
And then you're gonna end up with like 4 kids. You're gonna have 2 boys, 2 girls.
Yeah, just keep going. Yeah, until we get another girl. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll get through this one first, I suppose.
That's awesome, dude. Congratulations. Did you guys do like pop the can or the
no gender reveal? No, we didn't. We like just haphazardly tell people things way before when we're not even through the first trimester yet. So it's like we were telling people at like 10 weeks, just very early when we had just kind of found out. So that whole thing, we're just kind of. We like forget people because we didn't make a big deal about it. So there's just like randomly people who were like, my sister was like, congratulations on your pregnancy. I was like, oh yeah, sorry. Whoops, forgot to tell you. So I tell you like 2 weeks ago. By the way. sorry about that. But yeah,
exciting.
We're excited. It's kind of a crazy, of course it's a crazy time. Our daughter is only 19 months old right now. And it'll just be even nuttier having, a 2-year-old and a newborn in the household, but is it going to get better? Like you wait like 4 years and somehow you get to a magical point that the other child's like ultra helpful. I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like you just have to bite the bullet, concentrate all of the like baby stuff, and then reap the benefits later, I suppose.
I think that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, we'll see.
Our first 2 are about 2 years apart, and then we adopted our youngest. So he's like 7 or 6 years younger than our daughter. So there definitely is a gap. And it's nice because they are helpful. The older ones will help the littler one, But
how'd you like that 2-year gap? Because that's where we're going to be. That's
good.
Tough. Worked out.
It's good because they're like close enough where they can, when they're young, they can hang out, which is kind of fun. They like play together, and then like now they're going to be like they're in middle school together. They're actually 1 grade apart, but they're almost 2 years apart.
Okay.
And then they'll be in high school together. So I think it's been good. And we have a boy girl, so different genders, but. So they'll like hang out, but now my daughter's friends are all close to my son's, like group age. So it's like, be careful mixing all the girls and the boys, having parties.
Gotta watch and manage.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's fun, dude.
Yeah. All right. So you want to talk a little current events?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So they're bringing back the Victoria's Secret fashion show.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now. It's October 15th. They're bringing it back.
Oh, I thought they got canceled. No, they're back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
they stopped it's like 2018. It was a pre-pandemic, a different time, a different world entirely.
Yeah.
When they shut it down, and now it is back. And I got to say, looking online, not a ton of details about how it's going to be like so much better this go round. Although they did say that they were making changes to ensure that everyone enjoyed it. Now,
inclusive.
I see what I wonder is because there's going to be a camp of people who are going to want it to be exactly the way it was, and a camp of people who would love for it to be totally different. So I don't know how they make everybody happy on this one, but it'll be interesting. They're going to try. Apparently, Cher is walking in it as well. So not just
I have a
different
feeling one of the
shapes.
one of the Jenners or Kardashians might show up. No, because they have their own line. They have Skims.
Yeah, they got their own thing, but so it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because I'm sure that they're going to do something more inclusive because they had all of the controversy around Victoria's Secret before with total lack of inclusivity. So it should be interesting. I don't know. You going to watch it?
So
what do you think?
I probably won't watch it, but
you're gonna wait for the highlights.
I can barely watch stuff I actually enjoy watching, let alone something I don't care to watch. I wouldn't watch it to take notes or anything. But
I'll give you the rundown later.
Let me know.
I'll try to work.
I guess I am curious to see, like, when we say inclusivity, like, what is this, like, different body types, shapes, genders, obviously race, probably, like, different skin tones. I mean, hopefully they do all that. I think that's cool. I do think, because I think back to the early 2000 movies, for example, right? Like, one of them came on recently, and they dropped a phrase that I had not heard since high school, and it's very derogatory. It's a term like I would never say now, but it was like commonplace back then. I won't say what the movie is or what the phrase was. I can't even repeat it. But like, there were things that were so acceptable back then that make no sense. It's literally in like a Hollywood movie, like a teen, one of those teen Hollywood movies, like Save the Last Dance, like one of those kind of movies. And like, it's like Victoria's Secret was the same way. It was just so like misogynistic, I would say, or it was very, like you said, very specific audience, right? Yeah. And it's just a different time. So I don't think they can bring that back, because it'd be like bringing back those movies. It's like, it's just not going to fit.
Yeah,
today.
It's like some of those movies did not age well, and Victoria's Secret fashion show did not age well because it didn't change with the time. Yeah. Now we'll see. But it brings into this. Well, it brings in the whole discussion. When we're talking about what women or people in general are seeing in the media, and what people are seeing as like goals of beauty, right? Change with times, of course, is, people talk about different size women, different size men throughout time as things change. We went from Kim K, BBLs, very curvaceous, and now people are swapping more towards, people say ballerina body or yoga body, where people are, aiming for thinner in the time of GLP-1s. But it seems that no matter what the time and no matter what that swing, it is so incredibly difficult for anybody without the like very specific genetic makeup to be able to reach that without like our help, which is great for business, right? It drives people to like, well, I certainly can't do that on my own, so I need to like see somebody to help out. But it makes it so incredibly difficult for us when they come in with a picture. They're like, hey, I want to look like this person. And you're like, not going to happen in a million years. It's like there's no amount of money or time that's going to kind of get you there. And it's just because of their general anatomy, right? There's things that are possible and there's things that aren't possible, and just makes our job very difficult. So it's like good for business, bad for the patient. It's just, it's tough. And I'll be interested to see if they can strike, some sort of balance of different ideas of beauty during the fashion show.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing, I think, as a plastic surgeon. Like you said, they bring in people bring in photos, and it may not be anything like what their body habitus is, or like you said, their genetic makeup, right? And we can help them only so far. But it's like helping set expectations with patients, because sometimes they are a little wouldn't say unrealistic, but like they have to be kind of like guided as to what's safe for them and like what actually makes sense for their body. So I think it's really taking that photo and kind of like taking the inspiration from that and like kind of trying to paint them a picture of what's like actually possible. And that, I think that's the hardest thing as a surgeon, at least for me, is trying to convey like what I think I can achieve for them, and then they can see that, you know, and then obviously them trying to convey to me what they're trying to achieve, despite it being a photo. I remember I had one patient, she came to me and she said, hey, I want to have very natural breasts. I'm like, okay. We had the whole surgical plan. She comes the day of morning of surgery and she says, oh, I have this photo for an example. I'm like, oh, great. I look and like, this is the complete opposite of, I think, what 99% of the world would call natural. I mean, this girl's got a USA bikini on, you know, Team USA or whatever she was. I don't know. And they were just very, very rounded breasts. And maybe some women have that naturally. I've never seen that. But I said, okay, I'm like, whoa. And it made me realize that day, like someone's interpretation of natural may not be the same as mine or anybody else's, right? But we have to respect that and then try to, again, figure out what their expectations are and try to match them safely.
Yeah, it's closing that gap between their expectations and what's happening on planet Earth. It's like, because if you can't get them there, they're not going to be happy. They'll be mad at you forever, right?
Yeah.
So what happened with that patient? Did you have to cancel her because you needed different size implants?
No, luckily
we were able to figure it out.
No, we have a consignment, so it took me a lot. Like it delayed the case because then I had to go make sure we had implants that matched the look she was going for. We have patients sign a surgical acceptance form, and I actually typically don't let them even change it. So if it's a day of surgery, they're trying to change things, I'd say we're not going to do that. So like at their pre-op, we do all the consent, they sign it, they say this is the plan, we sign it, even the implant size, style, everything we have them sign, you know. And so yeah, but I had changed everything. It worked out. She was fine.
Yeah,
but I'm glad
I
asked her and she showed me. Yeah.
Yeah, terrifying to have somebody change at the last second, because then you wonder, like, is that what she always meant? Mm-hmm. Or did you have a change of heart like the last couple of days and then she's going to be desperately sad later? Yeah, I hate when somebody comes in and they're like, hey, so I was thinking, let's just do this today. I'm like, oof, hold the phone. Let's all take a second. Let's take a beat and let's make sure we've got a real good game plan settled. Because if I don't feel comfortable that you're settled, we're going to go ahead and cancel and come back and fight another day.
Totally. I've actually had patients show up the day of and they were second guessing getting, let's say, a breast augmentation. I counseled them that day saying, look, this is a decision that it is a permanent change to your body. Even though the implants aren't permanent, the change to your body to some degree will be permanent. And so this is a huge decision for you. Like, let's, you know, push this. And so I had her come back at 3 weeks. I gave her some time to think about it. She came back. And we decided to just cancel it completely, you know. So for me, and I know you're the same way as surgeons, like we're never going to force surgery on anybody. Like I would never be, and she was like, well, I was afraid because I thought maybe I wouldn't, you know, get my money back or whatever. She's worried about. I'm like, look, don't worry about that right now. We'll take care of you, but we're not going to do surgery. You know, I'm not going to make you do surgery because you think you're going to lose money. Like that's the last thing we should ever do, you know.
Yeah, so she'd just be unhappy. You end up having another surgery to get them removed, then her skin will be stretched out. She'll just be mad at you. Yeah. But I think for people outside of our profession, they do not understand how difficult it is to be at the cusp of starting surgery. Like your brain is already in the operating room. You're doing it. Like you're already like thinking about what you're going to do first and kind of making sure that you're on track. You've got that game plan going, like everything's heading away. And then a patient like brings up a question. And it's so easy to just be like, okay, whatever. Like this train's rolling. We're going to make it happen. But taking a beat, really listening to the patient, figuring out whether you need to like cut the ripcord and like just call it a day for that surgery and, you know, miss out on not only surgical time, but all the planning that went into that. It's tough. And a part of you wants things to just go forward unchanged. And it's, you know, being so focused on the patient to make sure that they're getting what they really need is the reason why you take that extra time and having a willingness to cancel cases. It's tough, especially when surgical time's hard to come by. I mean, for you, you all have your own place now, but for me, it's like I only have so much surgical time. So if somebody cancels at the last minute, you can't fill it. It's like devastating. You're like, I wanted somebody in that space.
Well, and if you have like a wait list, you know, like a few years out, like that 6 hours you'll never get back. You can't fill it. There could have been hundreds of people that could have filled it, and they're waiting, and it's fine. Like, at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? Like, again, we're not going to force someone to have surgery, but yeah, you're right. Like, there's a whole like backside to this, and then it takes our staff. They have to rework and potentially move people or try and get people to fill it last second. There's just so many things. It's not just easy, but we would do it at the end of the day. It's like parenting's not easy either, but we do it because we want our kids to be successful and be happy, right? So
yeah. When that space goes unused, it's not necessarily, your production that you're worried about, but that you're right, that line of patients who is interested, someone could have filled in that space if you had time to work somebody in. And especially for, my insurance-based cases, you have breast cancer patients, you have like skin cancer patients, things that need to be settled. So not utilizing that time is just sad.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this actually brings up something in clinic, and I don't know what your policy is. Mm-hmm. I've gotten ripped online on a couple of reviews for people. They're like, well, I came 15 minutes late and he refused to see me. And that's our policy, right? If you come in, you haven't done your paperwork, you're 15 minutes late, then you have to do your paperwork. And honestly, it's like, I couldn't care less for me, right? It's like, I would stay longer, would stay late all the time. It's not even that. It's you're going to back up the entire clinic, and every single person after you will be seen like later and later as you continue to move on. And then every other person will be affected. And it's not even me. It's like, sure, delay me, whatever. Yeah. I'll get home at 6. That's fine. But people get mad about that personally, feel like, oh, well, he feels like his time's so incredibly important. It's like, it's not my time. It's like the 30 other patients in that day that day's like off the rails because everything is lined up and set up kind of the way it should be. And it's just, we'll accommodate you at another time. We'll work to get you in, but it's like not going to happen today. We just can't do it. It's tough. What do you guys do for no-shows?
It's very similar because, like you said, first off, it throws everybody off. But honestly, like we send so many reminders and phone calls and emails to people ahead of time, like for adults that are, for the most part, should be responsible. Like I get it, stuff happens, right? Like, okay, maybe there was a traffic accident. But a lot of people will just call and be like, hey, we're behind. And we do our best to accommodate them. We get it. But if they no-show or all those things, like, yeah, there's like non-refundable fees. Because again, that's lost time that somebody else could have come, and filled that spot. But you're right, it's like this domino effect. And it's not even the 30 other patients, it's your staff. Like I think of all the moms that I work with, right? Like they have kids at home, they got to get home. And you have one person that's 15, 20 minutes late. It's disrespectful to everybody else because now everybody else is late. They're going to be late to see their kids. My staff is late to get home. And it just, like you said, it's just like just this domino effect for everyone. And so I don't know. As adults, like it's one of my pet peeves is just people that are not on time, And to me, obviously being on time is like coming early even. But like come on, you guys. Like people are like at work waiting for you and you just stroll in 30 minutes late, and expect to be
seen. I know when I have an appointment, I am there, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be that type of person because, we have to be on time for surgery and a million other things. But I am definitely there like 10 minutes early and I'm like sweating that I wasn't earlier. I'm like drive across town just like as fast as possible to make it to like a tattoo lasering appointment or like something else, It's like I'm definitely not going to be late to those, but yeah, it's kind of shocking how many people really are and expect for you to just rework, reaccommodate, no matter what. And for me, with clinic running over, I absolutely hate that for our staff. So there's plenty of times when we're running towards the end of the day. If we're getting to the last patient, say I have a consult that was supposed to be 4:30 to 5 and I'm walking in at 5:05, I'll just tell the staff, like, everybody beat it. I can see this patient by myself. I will send you a message for like what we need later. So at least everybody can get out close to on time. Because if I make a decision like, oh, I'm going to accommodate somebody late and stay late, I feel like that should affect me and it shouldn't affect like everybody else in the clinic. But I'll just let people go. That way we don't have everybody getting home late. I could make it my personal choice instead of just like screwing everybody.
So I'm on my way to work, and now I realize every morning now I turn my Apple Maps on my car. So, and I know the path to work. I promise I do. But it will tell me if there's like a traffic accident.
Yeah.
So I didn't turn on that day. And there's 2 routes. Well, there's 3 routes to get to my job. I went to the one I normally do on the freeway. I get on the freeway at 6 in the morning because I'm supposed to be there by 6:30. I'm on my way. And I come up the on-ramp, okay, onto the freeway. And the next exit is like 2 miles down. So at that point, I could not get off. And I come up and I see just cars completely stopped all the way up as far as I could see. I'm like, oh no. But I couldn't reverse at that point because I was already up the on-ramp, and I didn't know until I got up there. I'm like, well, probably a car accident won't be bad. Oh no. Turns out there was an oil spill on the freeway at midnight. So 6 hours before, okay. Oil spill.
People have just been trapped there, like
Yeah, I guess. Well, they didn't even like bother to
block off the
exit or entrance, but like don't get on, Like it was just the next exit down. So I literally sat on the freeway for 5 hours, dude. I did a 3-hour Instagram live. I didn't know it could even go that long, but I sat in my car doing a live for 3 hours, and I had like a full 10-hour surgery day. I didn't get there until 1 p.m. I had to go to the bathroom so bad. My team, we were texting. I was like, okay, maybe someone come switch me out in my car. Like we were just trying to think of everything, but there was no way for them to get there.
You need somebody on a motorcycle.
I know. We were like texting, and so I ended up I did the mommy makeover case, and then I had to move the other case to like another day that week. Like we had to add on like an afternoon. Like it was crazy. So we tried to obviously accommodate that person, and I was just the whole time like, oh, I've never been so late in my life, and I hated it.
I could feel the
5
pain.
hours, dude.
Just ticking away slowly. Brutal. Yeah. After living in Southern California for 6 years, going to UC Irvine, every time I get in the car, I could be going 2 minutes away in Portland where traffic isn't even bad. The Google Maps goes on. Check the traffic is just every single time, because there's been so many times when I was in Southern California that, I'm going to be on the highway for one exit, and it would add like an hour because it was so incredibly slow. So you just learned, no matter what, just fired up, CarPlay, music up, map on.
When I was in Southern California at Loma Linda, I remember I was on call at Kaiser, and I'd go in at like 2 in the morning for a hand consult. And I'm like 2 in the morning on the 10 freeway, there is a complete traffic jam. I'm like, it is 2 in the morning, you guys, on a Tuesday night. Yeah. What is happening? And that's like all the time, just like some random, traffic jam.
Yeah. Southern California is wild with the traffic. Weird. So I just completely changed how I do everything because of living there for 6 years. So it's like, even in Portland, I don't stop. It's like map on every single time. Even going to the grocery store, it's 5 minutes away. I'm firing it up. It's just now it's settled in. That's just what I do.
Yeah. My wife's like, you don't even know how to get to like the church, the kids' school, or your job without maps. I'm like, well, it's kind of true. But no, like I want to make sure that.
Well, there's so many ways to get there. You want to make sure you're taking the optimal route. Yeah. So this was an article in the New York Times on the rise of breast reductions, seeing it in Real Housewives stars. We have people, rise of it on TikTok. I mean, there's a huge increase. At least you guys are seeing a huge increase. For me, I do breast reductions all the time, right? It's like I do insurance. So I haven't seen a huge increase, but that's because it's already been high. What have you seen in your practice? Is this something you're seeing more and more of, or is that volume going elsewhere?
No, we definitely do a lot of breast reductions. I do a lot of cosmetic breast reductions. That's what I was in the article. A lot of the cosmetic reductions that I've been doing, people are wanting, it seems like relatively smaller breasts than they did even a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't know if this trend relates to a lot of the use of medical weight loss injections and drugs. And so for one, the volume just isn't there anymore. Like it's mostly skin at this point. So people are losing volume. And so sometimes I'm actually even fat grafting a little bit in the upper pole. So we're doing a full-on breast reduction to get everything lifted nice, tight, but they're still really kind of banana hollowed out on the top. So I'll add a little bit of volume up top. But yeah, I would say definitely women, before like, although you probably hear this too, if I say to a woman, hey, what's the like ideal cup size? They might be like a K or an L. They're like, I want to be a B. It's like most women are like, I want to be a B. And I don't know where the B comes from. And I'd say, it might not be proportionate to your frame. A B on you would look very small, but we get something that looks good, but that is still small. But what I'm finding is that women, I think, are wanting relatively smaller breasts than they did a few years ago, in my practice, at least.
I feel like in my practice, C is like the most, I don't see those patients, right? It's like I see the A and B who are interested in augmentation. I see the D and above who are looking for a reduction, but I never see patients who have a C cup unless they're just looking for a lift. But they're usually uninterested in actually changing the overall size because they feel like good on the size.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there has been a lot of patients that I've seen who are very, very large, who are looking to be like absolutely teeny tiny. And you're saying, you have the K cup patient who wants to go to a B cup, and that's not even like a standard reduction. It's not even physically possible with, a standard reduction. And some of them, you talk to them and you're like, okay, you're talking a B cup breast, which is yay big on your chest, which is supporting much more width than that. When we put B cup volume on your chest, it's going to appear with very little prominence, right? It's very little projection. It's not going to be kind of a cosmetic look because it's not fitting your shape. And some of them are like, I literally am not like interested to being any bigger than that. They want to be that size just due to comfort. And if that's what they want, absolutely. I just want to make sure that they understand what they are getting. So when they are getting their B cup, they're not thinking like a nice rounded perky B cup on their very large frame, which is not going to be, necessarily possible. But, if that's what they want, that's what they get. But yeah, I've definitely seen a push for people wanting to be more comfortable, smaller. And I think some of it has to do with, they've made a decision for themselves versus even just a couple of years ago, you would hear a lot of things where people are like, well, I wonder who, my husband or whoever significant other will think about these changes. And I'm seeing more women who are empowered to do what they feel is really going to be right for them and feeling that people within their lives are going to have to be accepting of that.
Yeah, I like that. I think, and if you think about it too, like insurance a lot of times dictates what size they're going to be at least, right? Because they say you have to take at least this amount of tissue out.
Yeah.
So I think
a minimum amount. Yeah.
Yeah, a minimum of however many grams, which may make them a C or a D. But I think especially when people are paying cash, like, hey, like I feel like I want to customize this to the size that I want, not that someone else is going to tell me, like you're saying, whether it's a significant other or an insurance company or a doctor or something, right? So I think there's like there's empowerment in that for women. But you're right. Like you said, the cups thing, I never promised a cup size to anyone. I said, like, I can't, I can get a good idea. No, but like, your frame, because even people's band sizes, the band size changes 32, 34, 36, your cup size changes, right? So I try to put that into perspective for people. But I say at the end, they want something that's proportionate to you. I mean, it's obviously proportionate smaller than you were. But you also want it to look good and look natural and heal well, right? So, and have living nipples. So it just there's so many like things that we take into account as we're planning these with our patients.
Yeah. And some people are here or there on the living nipples thing, right? If you tell them, you're like, with the standard reduction, when I'm using some of your breast tissue to keep the nipple and areola alive, to move it to a new position, say, I can only get you to a D cup. I feel like that is about as small as I can get you. Some people are like, then get rid of them. Whatever you need to do to be a B cup or an A cup or whatever their goal is. And they have other options. I mean, you can always nipple graft people like we do for top surgery. And I see a surprising amount of people opting for that. Even, you talk to them about the pros and cons over it, and they realize that it really removes all of the limitations you have on the size that you are after. And some of them will totally opt for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many awesome functional benefits from a breast reduction that we know. I think that's obviously one of the reasons insurance will cover it for a lot of women. I mean, there's functionally for women, obviously the neck pain, back pain can be a huge relief for them. Rashes and infections. There's just so many good things. I mean, it's like tummy tucks. There's so many functional benefits, I think, in plastic surgery and things that are aesthetic, which I think is awesome. And sometimes those things don't get stressed enough, I think, for women. But
well, I mean, if it's covered by insurance, you know that it's backed by science, right? They're not they're not covering experimental things because they want to, that they enjoy covering things. So breast reduction is
okay, fine.
Yeah.
We can't argue with science.
Can't argue with that. And people just are so desperately happy after that surgery, even if something happens, right? Say that they have an infection or they get a small wound or something that heals over time, that patient is still going to be desperately happy at 3 months, 6 months, and beyond. I think the people who have a problem with having a breast reduction are the people who are looking to have like cosmetic breast reduction, but under insurance, or they really just wanted a breast lift. And those are the people who come in, they're like, well, I'm an E cup now and I'm looking to be, a full D. We're like, okay, that's not a really big change. It's like, we'll have, to meet insurance numbers, we're gonna have to come down to a C cup. And then they're just sad that they're a little too small because they didn't really have that goal in mind to start with. But for the people who are truly there for symptomatic relief with a breast reduction, it's like near 100% across the board. Just so incredibly happy. Yeah. Totally. How does that work for you? Because obviously you don't like deal with the ins and outs of like Aetna, Cigna, all the other stuff, that all the paperwork that I have to put together to get these authorized and taken care of. If you have a patient who comes in who wants a breast reduction with you and you're like, hey, I went to residency and I realized that this person has back pain and they have shoulder grooving and rashes and all the zillions of things that they use as the checky boxes to get your breast reduction. You're like, this is clearly like an insurance case. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that in talking with a patient?
I just tell them I don't like an insurance company, a business dictating what I recommend to you as a surgeon. And I had been burned so many times in the past by insurance companies when I was doing it personally. And patients that were told based off of their body surface area, their Schnur scale, like, okay, you have to take off 500 grams. I remember one patient, she had, literally really asymmetric breasts, but one was just, 3 or 4 cup sizes larger than the other one. And I wrote to the insurance company and they said, well, you have to take off 500 from each side. I'm like, if I do 500 on each side, her left breast will be a complete mastectomy. She will have nothing. And they still said that I had to do that. And so it came the day of surgery. We got the letter and they said that. And I said, look, I'm not doing your surgery. I'm like, I do not want to do something that some guy who is just trying to make money is telling me what to do. So I canceled the surgery. And that was the last day I personally ever did an insurance case because I felt that it was dictating what I thought would be like optimal for that patient and for the results she wanted. And like you said, like when I was in training and we did a lot of insurance, like, yeah, people come in, they need it for symptomatic relief and they're like, whatever. But I remember doing a breast reduction on a very young girl and she came back crying the next day. We took exactly the amount out that they wanted, but she had like nothing left. She was like less than a B cup, I think. And she was just bawling. She's like, I have nothing. I don't feel like a woman anymore. And that's, again, because an insurance company said we had to take off a certain amount. And so I feel like just with those experiences, I feel like it just really pits us as surgeons against our patients when really we have no control over that, and it's great. And so I tell them, look, I'd rather you we figure out a way to help you finance it or we do whatever we can to do it so you can get the surgery you want that's going to fit you. And I said, I don't insurance. And if not, I'll refer them to someone else who does, So I don't want to leave them high and dry. But I'll tell you right now, like I have a breast reduction tomorrow. I do a lot of cosmetic breast reductions. And a lot of times we're doing liposuction around the breast, internal bra, fat grafting. So really it's like complete remodeling, but also, lifting, reducing the size, but giving a really nice natural look. And patients are very happy with that.
Yeah. And for us, we kind of go in the other direction where I see somebody under insurance for their initial consultation. We go through all of the paperwork and I can make a real determination based on the type of insurance they have. It's like, is this likely to be covered? And we can start down that road, or we know it's not going to be covered based on your goals. And then we can just talk to them about a cash pay service. But yeah, it ends up being kind of one or the other once we start the consultation and go through all of our paperwork. And for us, we actually literally have like a 2-page sheet that's just a zillion questions, and it's a conglomeration of all the questions that all of insurances have asked us about breast reduction patients. And some of them are super duper weird, but they're all together. That way, when the patient fills everything out, we like have everything we need. So there's not have to bring the patient back like 3 times to ask more questions or more paperwork. It's just get it all together, send it all off in one, find out truly if it's something that's authorized that we can move forward with, or do we need to move as a cash pay option. But I always kind of wondered, with people who are doing cash pay stuff, if you see somebody who's like truly an insurance case, do you bring that up to them, right? Because I feel like there's going to be some people out there that will know it in their mind that it's an insurance case, and they're like, I'm just going to have this patient pay for this because I would rather just get paid for it.
For most part, people that come to me, they know I don't do insurance. I haven't done it for like 4 years. So they know that for one. And we tell them ahead of time too, like we don't do insurance-based cases. We're always willing to refer them. But people will still wait. They don't want to go anywhere else. But I could definitely see that. And even when I was kind of transitioning, when I stopped doing insurance and that, same thing. I say, hey, like I don't do this, or to come up at the end of the consult. So can I go through insurance? I was like, well, like you can. I'm like, but I'm not currently an insurance provider, so I'm happy to refer you. So sometimes I would refer them to a couple of my colleagues that were in my practice. But I always want to do what's best for the patient, whether that's the results, their finances, whatever is important to them. But what I find is there's a lot of patients who want to go that route, and they do. So,
yeah. And it's always a question. It's like you never really truly know whether insurance will cover something until afterwards.
Until you're done, you're like, ugh.
which is always a little tough. I always kind of wonder, that's like coming in, getting a cup of coffee. You like hand somebody a cup of coffee, and then they decide whether they're going to pay for it afterwards. And you're like, it seems like a strange business model, but it's the system that we currently work in.
I mean, some restaurant like Olive Garden, you pay at the end, you tap to pay. You could get up and leave, I guess, but you're kind of stuck there.
I think that's actually illegal. I think it's called.
Yeah, exactly.
Dine the thing. Dash.
So, that's illegal. But if insurance denies you or doesn't want to pay you, like, I guess that's not illegal. You did a service and they say no. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Well, it's also different depending on what insurance is, because with certain insurances you can back bill a patient, but other insurances you can't. So you're like, well, I guess I just don't get paid for this one, which is just the way it goes. I feel I don't look too terribly hard on what cases I've gotten paid for and which ones I don't. I ask our billing people, like, hey, if there's something that you see that's consistently getting denied, bring it to my attention so we can figure out a better way to deal with it. But otherwise, I don't look at all of them because I just don't really want to know.
What other industry, like if you ask yourself, okay, an attorney, if he or she has 10 clients and 2 of them don't pay you after your services are rendered, or you have a restaurant and 10 of your customers in a given day don't pay for their food, like how would people look at that? And I feel like because we are doctors and we're supposed to, obviously we never do harm and we want to do what's best for patients, but I think people forget, like, we're also professionals. We've trained to do this, and we have a job too, and it's a service. It's a transactional service as well for your professional experience and your work. Like, it's weird to me that we're held to a different standard sometimes. It's like, well, you shouldn't expect to get paid. It's like, wait, why wouldn't I? Like, you expect to get paid if you're an electrician and you come and work on my house. Like, it's weird to me just because we're doctors. I don't know.
Yeah. We're nice. We want patients to.
I guess we're nice.
that's the problem. Or I guess that makes us suckers. I don't know. It's the system that we currently work in. Or at least I do. Not you. Not anymore.
I can't. Not we. Man. Sorry, bro. I just can't. I give up.
Yeah. Well, for me, right, I'm not an individual provider where I'm out there like fighting like a large commercial insurance. It's like I'm part of a group that's like 300 doctors, right? It's a large group. So we have bargaining power, we have billing departments, we've got all those people to like fight that fight. So I don't have to fight it, which is great, but I don't know how you would have the time and willpower to like fight it out if you were just solo. I mean, when you were doing insurance cases, you were doing it as a sole provider, or were you with larger group?
No, it was just me. And that's probably why I got jaded from it too, faster.
Yeah.
Because I hired a girl. She's now my patient coordinator. She's awesome, Christy. But she had done insurance billing for a physical therapy office before. So she had some experience, but it wasn't like hand surgery stuff, So
all the codes are different, how everything is different,
So it was a learning curve for all of us, and then following up with insurances, and I didn't have any negotiating power, it was just me, and so it's just a very different experience, I think, when you're solo, and then trying to run your own business in your practice, and then trying to make sure you get a couple $100 from that 6-hour case to pay your staff, it's not sustainable as a solo practitioner to do strictly insurance, So, I think that's probably why I changed early on.
Damn. I feel like there are people who do that. And I feel like the people who are solo practitioners or within like a group of two, they're just running super high volume, just like pounding through patients because they need the numbers to make up for the fact that their bargaining power is not significant being, part of a smaller group. But for me being part of the Oregon clinic, it's nice because I have someone to fight the good fight when I don't have the time or inclination to be involved in it.